Comic Uno. Today I'm doing a review for The Great Gatsby, which came out today and it's opening weekend. And I just want to try doing more movie reviews. I am a big movie fan and a big television fan, a big pop culture fan in general. So I do see a lot of movies, especially now that summer is coming, and definitely will be seeing a lot more movies. So I was like, why not? Let's do more movie reviews on my YouTube channel. So I will try doing more movie reviews. If I see the movie on opening weekend, I will try to do a review. So let's talk about The Great Gatsby. I've been a big fan of The Great Gatsby. I read in high school, of course, like I feel like everyone has. So I first read in high school, and then I read it in college, so I got definitely a deeper view of the book. But it's definitely one of my favorite books. It's an American classic, and it's a really interesting book. I think it's pretty easy to adapt into film. So let's talk about this film. Pretty much same story. I'm going to probably spoil it for you guys, because I feel like most of the people read the book, maybe not. But a lot of people did read in high school, so I am going to be spoiling the movie. So if you haven't seen the movie yet and don't know the ending, I guess avoid this video, because I will be talking about some spoilers. So let's talk about this. So in this movie, it's a kind of a love story, and again, an American classic. It revolves around Long Island and East Egg and West Egg. I'm pretty sure, I don't remember which one is the richer side, but one is about family richness, and the other one is about making yourself rich but you started out poor. But usually your family richness is what's actually rich. When you're just became rich on your own, it's actually looked down upon, and that wasn't told in the movie, but that in the book that's told. So we get to see that in this movie. Again, it's more of a love story between Daisy and between Gatsby with Nick Carraway's point of view. So it is a third person point of view, and that's what we get to see in the movie. Also, I think it was definitely more of a love story in this movie, and in the book it really wasn't. I think it was more, it's explained in the book more that Gatsby wasn't really in love with Daisy in the book. And, I mean, you could look at it as, yes, Gatsby was in love with Daisy in the book, but it was more that Gatsby was in love with that type of money, and that's what he wanted to be all his life. And in the movie, they showed that in his past. He always wanted to get money. He always grew up that he was going to be rich and famous and all that, and he did get that, but then he saw, hey, I'm alone, I want Daisy. So, in the movie, I think we got to see more of that love relationship, but also that hint in that layer of, yeah, I do want Daisy because of her money. And I think there is that hint of that also. But I think it was more of the love story in this movie. But in the book, they show more that Gatsby was in love because of her money. So I honestly didn't like this movie that much. When I first saw it, I thought the narration with Tobey Maguire was really flat. And it just kept thinking Spider-Man, and that's not always a good sign. And, you know, I like different actors, but you have to prove yourself when you're pretty much known for a role, and Tobey Maguire is pretty much known for being Spider-Man. So you're a good actor when you could define yourself as a different character, especially if you're known for something else. And Tobey Maguire, every single time I see him, I still think of Spider-Man, and that doesn't define him. I think as you go along in the movie, you think of him as Nick Carraway, at least with his acting, but his narration's still very Spider-Man-ish and very slow, I would say, and very boring and very flat. It could definitely be better, and that's how you start the movie. And it's very flashy, this movie. Way too flashy for the 1920s. You know, this book is supposed to be grand. It is supposed to be like, alright, Gatsby's having these amazing parties. It's the biggest parties ever. I think the parties were pretty much done right. But pretty much this whole beginning of this movie is about partying, and that is this book, but I felt they skipped a lot of the big themes in this book also. Totally skipped. And then they told themes like straightforward. They didn't leave it to the audience to really distinguish it. They just like with the God's eyes at I can't think of the dust place, but there's the middle of East and West, and between New York is where God's eyes are, and it's just sign just looking at all this happening, and that's God looking at all this happening. But that was more of a symbolism in the book, but they actually told it through narration. That's what happened. So a lot of this was supposed to be symbolism like they had with the book, but they straightforward said this is what it's about. Same for the green light. The green light was just there. Gatsby was just looking at it, but they like beat it with a stick saying this is hope. It's hope for Gatsby. That's something that we looked for symbolism for in the book, and it wasn't told through narration. So that kind of annoyed me that they made the audience seem stupid, that we can look at that they had to tell us what this was all about. And also, again, the acting wasn't great. Nick Carraway, I felt in the beginning, felt too close to the group. As a third-person narrative, he was supposed to be very distant. He was an observer of the group. I felt that a lot through the end of the movie. I give applause for that. I think they did a really good job of the disconnection towards the end of this movie. But in the beginning, it wasn't so disconnected, and it was way too close, and it felt like Nick's story. I'm going to talk about Nick and Jordan. Now in the book, if you read an academic point of view, Nick is actually gay. But I think they did actually show that in this movie, that with the photographer, if you do look at it again, you could tell that he is. So I'm glad they did that, because for academics that really look into the book, like when I read it in college, we had to read a lot of academic essays for it, and I think for academics who wanted that, I think they definitely saw it, and I'm glad they did it in the source material, that they kind of showed it, but they didn't say it like they did in the book. They showed it, but they didn't really say it. And also the whole Jordan and Nick relationship with that also. So I feel like they kind of left out the Jordan part of that, but they showed at least the photographer thing in this. So I was happy they kind of did that in this movie, just for the source material. Also, Jordan wasn't really in this movie, which I was kind of disappointed, because I felt like their relationship was important for the movie, or for the book, and they wasn't there at all. I mean, Jordan had very few lines, but she felt like a very hollow character. And I think she was an important character, but I don't think she was there. You know, there was a sign where she was following Daisy a lot, so she actually liked Daisy. So I thought that was something that, like, again, for academic reader reading the book, I felt that was more for the book. And then Jordan wasn't really in the movie, and I thought she was a defined character, and in the books, and she was important, and she didn't even have a relationship with Nick at all, really, in this book. Just saying, she talked to Gatsby once, said, "Gatsby has to tell you something, set up tea for Daisy." So that's pretty much happened with that. I was a little disappointed that she wasn't really in the movie, just because I thought she was a big part of it. Same for Myrtle, honestly. Myrtle is a big part, but she just felt very skimmed in this movie. She was supposed to be fat, actually. Myrtle's supposed to be this fat woman, but she looked pretty much as skinny as Daisy, and that's not what it's supposed to be, because Tom is supposed to have this superiority over everybody, and that was the whole point. And the reason he actually has an affair with Myrtle is because he wants to feel that superiority, and in the end of the movie, when he feels like he's losing Daisy and Myrtle, it's not because he's losing people he loves, it's because he's losing that superiority. So that's why I was kind of upset with that, because they really didn't show that Tom was the wrong one. I mean, yeah, Tom Buchanan was the wrong one. They just kind of referenced it. I mean, if you read the book, you're like, oh, okay, they referenced that. Okay, fine. But I think if you're watching this movie, never read the book, you're not going to notice that Tom did anything wrong. It's just very hintedly referenced, and it seems like Daisy's the one who does something wrong, which really, they both do stuff wrong. And again, they just referenced the Tom thing, and I feel like Tom did do a lot wrong. And I was upset with the Myrtle thing. I just felt like they didn't show her enough. Especially, I think she plays a big role, honestly, if you saw the ending of this movie. I thought, let's go into actors again. I thought Tommy McGuire didn't do a great job with Nick Carraway. I think Nick is supposed to be that outside point of view. It was okay, and maybe the beginning kind of takes you off, because he's like, oh, I'm an alcoholic, I'm depressed, I'm gonna write a book, and it's gonna be called The Great Gatsby. I felt like that was kind of, I mean, I guess that's how you get the narration, but I was kind of felt misplaced, I guess. I liked Leonardo DiCaprio a lot in this. I think he didn't have a lot to work with. And I mean, Gatsby is a brilliant character, just the script felt like it was written by a 5-year-old. They said old sport 50 times, I would say. More than that, every line they said old sport. And I'm not exaggerating at all. They said old sport about 50 times in this movie. Every sentence he said was old sport. And they try making fun of him in this movie. They're like, well, old sport, old sport. And he's like, why do you keep saying that? So they try making fun of it, but it really doesn't go well. He just says it way too often. This gets you really annoyed, and you don't even like Gatsby with that. But then there's moments that Leonardo does great with this. Like when he's setting up for the first tea for him and Daisy. It's really well done. Just the emotions, like he gets all, like his body language tells it all. It's like, I'm nervous, but I don't know what to do. He just flings his hair. It's just perfect. He did a great job with that. And I really like the way he did Great Gatsby. I think what he had, he did a really good job for what he had. If you watch Vampire Diaries, I still think Joseph Morgan, who plays Klaus, would have done a good Great Gatsby also. But that's always was like my depiction of who Great Gatsby would look like. But I think Leonardo DiCaprio, definitely a good pick also. I think he's one thing I really enjoyed about this movie. I guess Daisy did a pretty good job because Daisy is a very hard character because you have to see that she's a very weak character. I think, not weak, but inside she feels weak and fragile. She doesn't show it, but she's a very fragile person, doesn't know where she wants to go, but all she's defined as is with money, and that's a very hard thing. And then even the line she says in the beginning of the movie, and which is definitely a defined line in the book, is that when I have a daughter, I want her to be stupid, and that's the way she should live, rich and stupid, or beautiful and stupid, because that's the best way to live. And that just saying ignorance is the best way is like, I think obviously in this movie it shows that she really liked Gatsby, but she just had to go with Tom in the end. But also shows me money just controls a lot of people, and she did what was wrong, but in the end Gatsby's the one who dies. I think we all knew that, but I thought the death was kind of rushed a little also. The death scene was pretty good. It could have been a little better. I think it was a little bit better in the book. But I liked, I guess the funeral was okay. The father in the book actually comes to the funeral, so I thought that would have been important to add, but they just showed Nick there. But Nick even moves on with his life a little. I mean, he's a little depressed because of it, but he writes a book, but he even moves on with his life. It just shows that everyone kind of moved on after Gatsby, which was kind of upsetting, but that was also the way they played it with the books. So yeah, and also let's mention what the biggest problem was: the music. Jay-Z playing with the 1920s. There's maybe like 3 songs that fit in this movie, but everyone else, it's like Beyonce's New York. I'm like, come on, that does not fit this movie. It really loses the tone. This movie's way too flashy. Again, I understand it has to be big, it has to be great, but there's way too much CGI in this movie. It actually like gets you dizzy. Like, I didn't watch the 3D, but I'm sure with the 3D it would have gotten even more dizzy. Maybe it would have been better, but I think it just got you really dizzy with this movie. Yeah, it's just way too much with that. Honestly, again, the dialogue really wasn't good. I expected so much more because I really do like this book a lot. It's one of my favorite books, and I was really disappointed. Again, the only thing I really liked was Daisy. The way that she felt, just even with the shirts, he's like, you understood that scene, say, I just like all the beautiful shirts, or really liking Gatsby, and just like I do love that scene, the way she does it, because that's a very hard thing to do. Is that scene's like, but the shirts are so beautiful. But I really think Daisy did a pretty good job. I thought Leonardo DiCaprio did a good job. The person who played Tom did a pretty good job what he had. But other than that, movie is very lackluster, and I got really bored. It was way too long, and it felt like it went quick. A lot of things went too quick. Like, you couldn't really concentrate on the characters and really get into those characters, because everything was just like, all these scenes were going quick, but it was a long movie. There's boring parts, but there were not scenes where you connected to these characters, and it felt very distant to the characters. Maybe they did it on purpose, I don't know, but I just felt very distant, and I think that's the best way to explain it. Sorry this was such a long review, but definitely loved The Great Gatsby and didn't really like the movie. So I do give this 2 stars. I actually recommend you not to watch it. If you read the book, honestly, if you want to really get the good story, read the book. I think it was better. If you do see this movie, I think go walking in saying Leonardo DiCaprio does a good job of what he has, even though he says old sport 50 times. And Daisy actually did a pretty good, good performance. So there's some good stuff in here, but mostly bad. So tell me what you thought about Great Gatsby in the comments below. If you did see it, tell me if you want me to do more movie reviews. I hope you guys enjoyed. And this is Comic Uno, and I'll see you guys later. Bye, guys.